players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Friday, December 20. The Montreal Canadiens were in Detroit. It's a back-to-back. The Canadiens will host the Detroit Red Wings tomorrow night. There were 6 games left in the month of December going into tonight's game. In Detroit tonight versus Detroit tomorrow. They'll be in Columbus on Monday. On Saturday the 28th, they'll be in Florida the next night or next late afternoon. On the Sunday the 29th, they'll be in Tampa. And on the 31st, they will be in Vegas. 5 of those 6 on the road. Tonight was game 1. And in my opinion, probably the most important game because you want to start to get on a roll. And after that Buffalo win, let's make it 2 in a row and a little bit of momentum. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't. But the Montreal Canadiens found a way to get it done. They beat the Detroit Red Wings by a score of 4-3. Let's get to it right now. It's the Maguire Report.
The Maguire Report. Presented by Vago Italian.
And Restaurant Vago has been open for 23 years. Longevity, not many restaurants open that long. Private dining rooms for any occasions, birthdays, engagements, corporate meetings. I can tell you that Pierre McGuire is a regular at Vago when he is in Montreal. And his mom loves the place, and all the Maguires do. Plenty of free parking after 6, open Monday to Saturday evenings, and lunch Tuesday to Friday. Fresh quality ingredients, old world Italian classics, and new Italian. You will be greeted by Tommaso at the door. He is one of the most popular people in all of Westmount because it is a very popular restaurant with Angelo taking care of business in the kitchen. It is Restaurant Vago. Pierre, how are you?
I'm excellent, Tony. I'm probably like a lot of Canadiens fans tonight. Pretty excited. That was a fun game to watch.
It really was a fun game to watch. I think that Marty St. Louis probably will have some headaches, and I think that Monsieur Lalonde will probably have some headaches as well because there were a lot of mistakes in this hockey game, and goals, Pierre, are usually scored by either mistakes and or great plays. And tonight we saw a lot of mistakes. We saw a lot of great plays. We saw a lot of goals. We saw a lot of saves. We saw a lot of pucks that probably should have been stopped that weren't. We saw a little bit of everything in this game. I have to admit, Pierre, though, I was a little bit surprised given that these two teams, those are direct points tonight. I would have expected it to be a little bit more tight. And I think both teams kind of said, you know what? I think we can beat you, so we're going to go after you. I'm not so sure if that was the strategy, but it looked like two teams that were willing to attack, Pierre.
Willing to attack is a fair statement. There were some players for the Canadiens that really played well, Tony. Jake Evans was one of them. I thought Jake was tremendous. He was 50% in the faceoff circle. He had a goal. He had an assist. He was tremendous on the penalty kill. Going into this weekend series between Detroit and Montreal, I thought the special teams quotient was going to be the difference. I really did. So we saw that tonight. And the special teams quotient is the addition of the power play percentage and the penalty kill percentage. So for Detroit this year, their special teams quotient is 92.6. For Montreal, it's 100.3. That's a substantial difference. And tonight, anyways, it played out. And I'm not a big numbers guy, but that's one group of numbers that do matter to me. That and goal differential matter a lot. And you saw the Canes were good on the power play when they had to be. They were very good on the penalty kill the entire night. In fact, when Detroit had 2 power plays in the second period, they only had 5 shots for the period. They got outshot by Montreal 10-5. So I saw a lot of really good stuff from Montreal, both on the coaching side of things, the playing side of things. And when they needed Montembeault to come up with a huge save at the end of the game,
yes,
he came up with it. He came up with
several in the last couple of minutes, and the Detroit Red Wings went on a power play with less than 3 minutes left in regulation, and that was a huge penalty kill by the Montreal Canadiens. And Pierre, watching the Detroit power play, and you see Moritz Seider out there, and you see Patrik Laine out there, and you see the Brinket out there, and you see Dylan Larkin all there. It's all fine and dandy, but I have to tell you, I was looking at them and saying, you know what? You got some pretty good offensive players, but you do not have a Patrik Laine on your power play. And that was one of the differences in tonight's game, because when all was said and done, it is Patrik Laine who ends up with the game-winning goal once again on the power play for the Montreal Canadiens. Pierre, listen to these stats. He has 7 goals thus far this season. They've come in 8 games. All 7 are on the power play. Yep. When he has scored those power play goals, they have won every single game in which he has scored. And by the way, guess where his 7 power play goals rank him in the National Hockey League? He's only played 8 games, Pierre. He's ranked 5th in the National Hockey League with 7 power play goals.
So that's great, except when we look at the score sheet, I know people are going to say, come on, don't be negative. I'm not going to be. But 5-on-5 is still a question. -2. That whole line was minus. You know, if you look at it, they're minus, and the top line is minus. Caulfield's minus, Suzuki's minus. I get it, but they need Patrik going 5-on-5, and part of that, I think, to be fair, is Kirby Dach's not getting it done.
Well,
did you notice in the third period when he put Jake Evans up there to play with Newhook and Laine for one shift?
Yes.
Made a massive difference.
And as a matter of fact, Pierre,
made a massive difference.
Add to that, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be together tomorrow night. And I know that Jake Evans is coming off a great game. And by the way, I totally agree with you. His 1 goal, 1 assist, the goal which was shorthanded, by the way, in his 300th NHL game. I thought Jake Evans was by far the best forward in tonight's hockey game. By far the best forward. I also totally thought that Kirby Dach was by far the worst forward in tonight's hockey game. So let's just take a look at his game, okay?
Yep.
Kirby Dach's game tonight was a penalty for high sticking again on Ben Sherratt, and luckily for Kirby, that Jake Evans scores a shorthanded goal. Kirby Dach's game was after Lane Hutson, who, by the way, defensively struggled too tonight, mishandled the puck trying to get out of the zone, and then it's picked off by DeBrincat, who pokes it back. It goes in the direction of Kirby Dach, who gets stripped by, who was it, Kopp, I believe, and then I think it was Kopp. I have it here. To Kopp, yeah, and then it goes to Patrik Laine, and he, with those soft hands, he puts it up over Montembeault, which I think
what a shot, by the way, though, Tony.
Yeah, great shot. I think Montembeault was surprised that Patrik Laine just would have that poise in front.
It's a pretty special shot. It really was.
But so Kirby Dach flounders on that play after Lane Hutson is the first one to mishandle it. He takes the penalty, which luckily for him, that Jake Evans scores a shorthanded goal. But Pierre, listen to these numbers, okay? Listen to them, and I have them here. In the face-off circle tonight for the Montreal Canadiens, Christian Dvorak,
70%.
71. He won 12 of 17. Alex Newhook won 3 of 5. He went 60%.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Evans, like you mentioned, went 8 of 16. He won 50%. Nick Suzuki won 6 of 15. Tough night for him. He went 40%. Pierre, Kirby Dach won 1 of 7. He went 14%. Pierre, he went 14%. Pierre, if he would have tried to go 14%, he would have done more than that. I mean, this is it can't continue. But the more so I have the utmost respect for your opinion, because you're 1,000 times more qualified to give a scouting report on a player. You tell me that you still believe that he could be a good centerman in the National Hockey League. I say, Pierre, I'm going to give it some time. How can he do that, though, if he keeps on being terrible in the circle?
No, you can't. No, it won't work. And you're not wrong on everything you've said. Here's what I'm telling you. One of the things I first said to you was when they moved Jake Evans up to play with Laine and Newhook, made a massive difference for Patrik Laine. You could see it. That line was jumping. They were getting pucks in the net. They were making things happen in the offense. So you don't see that with Kirby. I think he needs a reset. I really do. I think he needs a reset. We talked a little about it the other day when Maxime Lapierre was on with us.
Yeah.
And I do think he needs a bit of a reset. And your theories and your hypothesis, they're going to watch the tape tonight on the plane coming back. Usually that's what they do.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to see what you've talked about. They're going to see what I've just expressed about where, obviously Jake Evans has been. And I think they might make a change going into the game tomorrow. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Look, there's another thing that bothers me with this play. I don't see that hockey IQ of a centerman. I don't. Now, did we see it in flashes before he got hurt? Yeah, we did. Have we seen it in the 250 games that he's played in the National Hockey League thus far? How many times have we seen it? I don't know. I don't know. So when you talk about the reset for him, the reset of going on a fourth line and probably getting much better matchups going up against third pairing defensemen, going up against other teams' fourth lines, or the reset of Kirby, 2 games and 2 nights, you've really been struggling. We gave you the benefit of the doubt. We give you more than ample opportunity. You're probably best just going to watch this one from upstairs.
No, I think go to the fourth line. This is just what I think. And you get favorable matchups on home ice. You get last change for sure. You don't have nearly as difficult a matchup, especially in the face-off circle, unless you ice the puck. So I think that's kind of where I would go with this one. I don't think you need to break him yet. But he clearly, I'll just say this. I think he needs a reset. And I think the coaches probably feel the same way.
It is the Sick Podcast, and I am Marinaro, usually off on Fridays, but I'm in tonight, and I'm happy to be here. It's brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by that beer right behind me. You'll see a little bit of that fridge. It's Bittt Tibi's fridge. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for chilly winter days, only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and it's ultra refreshing. Pierre, that Jake Evans goal, that puck went back to Hutson in the Canadian zone, who passed it onto the other side on the right side to Matheson, who found Jake Evans with some speed through the neutral zone, who right away found Emil Heineman going down that left wing, who took a wrist shot that was a quick wrister. In my opinion, Talbot should have saved it, but you know what? It goes in. Mike Sullivan said, and even though the Pittsburgh Penguins obliterated the Canadiens a couple of weeks back by a score of 9-2, and they scored 6 unanswered goals in the third, the one thing he did say about the Canadiens is he thought that they had the ability to get the puck out of the zone really, really quickly. And so when they're not turning over the puck, he says the puck, when they have it on their stick, they're able to get it out of the zone very, very fast and move up ice very fast. We saw that on that goal, Pierre.
Yeah, that's fair to say. The other thing, too, is Alex Carrier made a big difference on that defense. He's a very good puck mover, Tony. So you've got Lane Hutson, you got Mike Matheson, you got Caden Goalie, and now you've got, obviously, Alex Carrier. So I think the defense, as you talked about, Mike Sullivan's alluded to it, that plays to the strength of the Canadiens because they're a smaller team. They've still got a lot of speed, and that helps them. The one thing that's interesting, though, I didn't see any jitters at all from Carrier tonight, at all, 0. And, I can tell you this with a clear conscience. When I was in Ottawa, I presented his name numerous times so we could try to acquire him. We needed depth on the right side. We didn't have a lot of it. And I thought he would be a perfect fit to play with a guy like Tommy Shabbat. I really felt he would have been. So I've been watching this player for a long time.
Did that go anywhere? Were there discussions at all? It never went anywhere?
Never went anywhere. No.
So you were alone on an island on being the president of the Carrier fan club, or was there some support?
I don't know about that.
So I'll say this. I know I put you on the spot there. I'll say this. I'm watching that game tonight. The Canadiens went from having a Justin Barron up until a couple of days ago, who has been in and out of the lineup. And when he has been in the lineup, they've limited his minutes. They've tried to give him the matchups because they knew it could be difficult for him. He hadn't really established a regular spot on the team. When not the most physical player, could get bumped off of a lot of pucks. And tonight they had Alex Carrier, who in his first game on a new team with a new system and new teammates and no practices to show for it, goes out with a new defense partner. And once again, he plays just shy of 19 minutes. He's a +1. He's got a couple of shots on goal. He's got a missed shot. He's got a hit. And in that game, he wins his puck battles. He's got communication with his defense partner. He doesn't make any mistakes. Now, a game doesn't make a season, but if I'm a Canadiens fan, I have to be watching that, being very encouraged and saying the Montreal Canadiens are a better team than they were 3 days ago.
Oh, absolutely. And you're not over-exaggerating. You're nailing it. I saw him at the end of the game, calm, cool, collected, chip the puck into the neutral zone under pressure, smart play, kill the clock. They're not afraid to put him out there. They know. This is not a knock on Justin Barron. They just didn't feel comfortable putting him out there at key times in the games. Now, the one thing I'll say, he's going to Nashville. Todd Richards coaches his defense there. Why is that relevant? It's relevant because Nashville over time has done a real good job over the years developing defense. They really have. And Todd's a big reason why they've been able to do that. And for Canadiens fans, he's a former Montreal Canadiens draft pick. Now, he wasn't nearly the player that he is a coach. He's a tremendous coach. So that might help Justin Barron. It might. It might really help him a lot. All that being said, I think Carey is going to make a big difference for Montreal. I really do.
So talk to me about the defense pairings, because even though Canadiens win this game, and even though Carrier and Goalie together look very good, Matheson and Hutson didn't always look very good tonight, and neither did Xhekaj and Savard. But Xhekaj and Savard, I get it on a third pairing. But I want to ask you, do you like these defense pairings, or seeing as out of Carrier and Goalie, Matheson and Hutson, the two that have the puck on their stick the most, that carry the puck, that try to make plays, sometimes even force plays, are Hutson and Matheson? Would you really have them together?
I think right now you probably want to stick with that, but I think there's some study that has to go off with tonight's game for both players, especially for Laine. You know, the turnover, the egregious turnover that leads to the goal that puts them ahead.
The 3-2 goal by Mott.
Yeah, the 3-2 goal by Tyler Mott. All he needs to do there, and you can watch the tape, because that's all I do, and guys, stuff like that happens. The easy out for him, and it's a teachable moment. Don't try to go through people. Just move it to your partner. Just look at your partner. The partner's wide open, Matheson in this case. But he tries to be too cute, turns it on. Watch the reaction of Laine after the puck goes in. He knows. And then the next shift he goes on the ice, he actually is playing guilty, and he tries to make a difference. So I have no problem with that. You don't want to punch the player. You don't want to make it seem like it's a bigger thing than it is, especially because you're one on the road. But it's a teachable moment, and I think you need to bring him in and show him what it was and teach him about it.
Pierre, once upon a time, the Canadiens had a defenseman. His name was PK Subban. And you know what? He did a lot of great things. And every now and then, because he loved to handle the puck and he loved to try and provoke things and create things, he would mishandle the puck, or he would turn the puck over, and sometimes it ends up in your net. And PK would probably miss the next shift, or PK would be in the doghouse for a little bit, or PK might even be called out in the locker room or at the end of the game. There was a moment in tonight's game after that mistake that RDS television crew zoomed in on Stefan Robida talking to Lane Hutson immediately as he got back to the bench, but without knowing what he told him. And you can probably guess, Pierre, because you've been in so many of those situations, you could tell that he was kind of like forget about it, you know, it's okay. And maybe he told them, you know, like, maybe take a look for your defense partner, and then told him, forget about it. It's okay. It's all good. But I really liked the optics of what I saw and Robida giving him the pat on the back. And about 30 seconds later, Robida looks in the air and he's like, whew, that was a bad one to give up, but he never did that with Laine.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because that tells me a lot. First of all, I know Steph and I like him a lot. He's got really good mannerisms around the players. He was a very good player, diligent player. He worked hard for everything he got in the league. I admire guys like that. I really do. The thing to me that's important, and I learned this from Scotty Bowman a long time ago. I asked him about coaching Phil Housley, he's an 18-year-old out of South St. Paul High School in Minnesota. And he said when he turned pro, we just let him go. And he made a whack of mistakes. Almost every night he'd make a mistake. But they never broke his spirit because they didn't want to take away his creative genius. And over time, obviously the player becomes a Hall of Fame player, an unbelievable player. But they never broke his spirit early in his career. And I think that's a big thing that's going on with Laine right now. They're not breaking his spirit. You talked about the PK Subban stuff. I watched it all. I broadcast a lot of those games. You know, and PK and I used to joke a lot. He had this one move, we called it the Subi-Doo, where he'd spin around at the offensive blue line. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. But I'll never forget, like Mike Babcock, when Babcock put him on the 2014 Olympic team to play in Sochi, I remember clear as day, he would call me up and ask me, like, why should he be on the team? And it's to your point, Tony. PK could be a game breaker. And he knew at that level when you're playing against the best on best, because he'd done it in the World Junior and he'd done it in the NHL, you can't be messing around with crazy stuff. And he could do stuff that a lot of guys couldn't do. And I think it made a big difference for that Olympic team in 2014.
Let's take a look at the Montreal Canadiens lineup tonight. All right, there we have it. Suzuki with Caulfield and Slafkovsky, Dach with Laine and Newhook, Dvorak with Gallagher and Anderson, Evans, Armia, and Heineman, which was the Montreal Canadiens' best line of the night. Yeah. And you'll see them in red there because they're the ones who started the game for the Canadiens. Hutson, Matheson, Goalie, Carrier, Xhekaj, Savard, and Samuel Montembeault get the start. So Alexandre Carrier as well, who Marty St. Louis says, hey, son, you know what? Your first game with us, you're going to start. That's pretty cool for him as well. Pierre, it's a couple of games now. I mean, I've lost count, but it's a couple for sure. That Marty St. Louis starts his games with the fourth line, knowing that they're going to work and almost saying like, okay, guys, go out there and set the tone for us. Am I onto something here? Or, you know, because it just seems like he's going to that fourth line, asking them to set the tone, and they are, because they've been doing well lately.
You're so right on it. And I'll tell you why, because Evans usually wins those initial draws. So you get puck possession right away. You dictate the terms. You get pucks in deep. You create forecheck opportunities. Armia is a big, strong guy. He's not going to lose many board battles. Heineman can really skate, and we saw it tonight. He can shoot the puck too. And obviously Jake's a smart player. So, no, it's not going to cost you by starting them. And they're precisely why the great Scotty Bowman used to give me a hard time because I'd number the lines. And he said, never number your lines, because one night your fourth line is going to be your first line and your first line is going to be your fourth line just based on performance. Wow. He said, never, ever, ever number your lines. And he's spot on about that. And I'm glad that Marty's doing that, because you do have lines that sometimes are better than others when it comes to starting a game.
Yeah, I just noticed there's a picture, Shane, if you can get it. It's one. Actually, you know what? Let me see if I can get it here. There's a picture, Pierre. It's unbelievable that actually RDS put up of Patrik Laine's shot. You got to see this.
Hitting the stick of Cider.
That is correct. But I'll show you this. We'll bring it up right here. Agnello and Sammy at Master Control. I'm going to send it over to you right now, and we're going to see if they can actually bring it up here in a couple of minutes. But in the meantime, why don't we get to the Detroit Red Wings lineup after saying the Montreal Canadiens lineup? Let's get to the Red Wings, and I'll bring up that pick in a second. Larkin, Raymond, Tarasenko, Kopp, Kane, DeBrincat, Comfort, Mott, Rasmussen, Casper, Fisher, and Veleno. Pierre, I want to talk to you about Joe Veleno, and I think it's important because he's the hometown kid, and obviously he's got a lot of people rooting for him here in Montreal, but he's now down to a fourth line and playing wing. Gives you an idea of how hard the National Hockey League is, right? For a guy who did just so well in junior hockey. Your thoughts on Joe's role on the team, and he's still young, but has he hit his ceiling already, in your opinion, or there's still room for growth?
Well, I think there's room for growth, but I think you're not talking about a top 6 player on an NHL team that's going to compete for a playoff spot. I think you're talking about a player that, is that third line or fourth line player. He's going to have to redefine his game, I think, because what you're seeing is, you just made a really good point, Tony. They've moved him to the wing to put Casper at center because they think Casper's got probably a bigger upside. The problem when they got Kampf last year from Colorado is he and Tyler Mott played together on a line at Michigan called the CCM line. It was Kyle Connor, JT Compher, and Mott. So 2/3 of that line, it's one of the best lines in U.S. college history, are playing together. So they're not breaking those two guys up. And then you look at Andrew Kopp as a really smart player, and they got him playing obviously with Patrick Kane and DeBrincat. And Larkin's going to be their number 1 center unless they move him, and I don't think they're moving him. So where's Joe Veleno going to fit in?
Well, if he's playing fourth line wing, he's going to have to play like a winger and not like a centerman, because
exactly
right.
So this is kind of where he is right now, and I don't see him moving up the depth chart. And I can tell you right now, Detroit's got guys in the American Hockey League. They got a kid, Carter Mazur. I'm just telling you, he's a really good player, and they got other guys too. So this is going to be a battle for Joe to maintain his position there.
Let's bring up their defense and their goalie if we can one more time. On defense for the Detroit Red Wings tonight, it was Sherratt with Sider, Hull with Petrie, Johansson with Gustafsson, Talbot and Lyon. Pierre, I can understand why the Detroit Red Wings have been struggling too. I mean, Ben Sherratt's on your first pairing D.
Yeah.
Jeff Petrie is on your second pairing D. Cam Talbot's in goal. It's kind of like a little bit of a roller coaster there. That team's got holes, Pierre.
Right now they do. The one thing I'd say in defense of them, Simon Edvinsson didn't play tonight. He's a big defenseman.
You're right.
He can play right or left side. Usually plays on the left side. I watched him a ton when he was a kid over in Sweden. He's a legit top 4 player, Tony. So that's a little bit skewed on that. They've got Sebastian Casa, who just got his first NHL win, who's a top-end goalie prospect. And they also got a guy, Trey Augustine, who fans of the World Junior will see play this year for Team USA. And he plays at Michigan State. He's one of the top goalies in the country. I don't think he's as good as Jacob Fowler, but he's in that category. So, they've got guys, again, to be fair to Detroit, they got guys coming along. But you're right. That's not a world-class defense. I would agree with you on that.
The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Playground. Ring in 2025 with glitter, groove, and glam at Playground's New Year's Eve party. Get your party bracelet and access all the excitement across every floor starting at 5 p.m. Bracelets are required for entry. For just $20, you'll receive $20 in free play and a glass of Prosecco to toast the new year. Bracelets are also required for poker action on the 3rd floor. Get ready for an unforgettable night of music, dancing, and exclusive gaming fun. Celebrate in style only at Playground. And go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account, offer, and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and over. And please play responsibly. Buddy of mine called me. He said, Tony, I like the Canadiens today. What's your bet? I said, I think it'll be low scoring. I was watching those goals going one after another. I'm like, why did I open my big mouth? Anyway. To my buddy Stefano, who's probably watching right now. Stefano, low scoring tomorrow. Let's see if they turn it around. Okay. We have that. Let's get to the scoring first before we get. Okay, here we are. Pierre, look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this.
That's pretty special.
That's the shot that led to his goal. And yes, it was deflected off of Mort Sider's stick where the stick broke. But look at that, Pierre. Pierre, how many guys right now in the National Hockey League, wrist shot, slap shot, one-timer, precision, power, quick release, are in the same category as Patrik Laine?
Yeah, it's a very small group. I'd say Nate McKinnon can do that. I say Alexander Ovechkin could do that. Zibanejad, when he's on his game, when he's really feeling his game, and obviously he hasn't for a while, but he's a guy that could bring it. Josh Norris is a vastly underrated player when it comes to doing that. He plays on the other side because of the left-hand shot.
Austin Matthews.
Austin can, I was just going to go there. Austin can bring the heat a lot. There are a few guys, but there's 750 players in the league, Tony. Maybe there's 20, 25 guys that can do that. There's not a lot of guys that can do that. Not a lot.
Yeah, I actually think that number could actually be less. But you brought up a couple of names there that some people wouldn't have thought of. Josh Norris.
People don't even know. I'm just telling you. I worked with the kid for a year. He's really good when it comes to doing that stuff. He's really, really good.
Wow, that's good to hear. Okay, let's bring up the scoring. Let's bring up the if we can. So there you have it. Once again, Emil Heineman gives the Canadiens a 1-0 lead, 7:09 in. Patrik Laine, we talked about Lane Hutson mishandling the puck and then Kirby Dach getting stripped. Jake Evans with Dach in the box for a high stick, short-handed goal, unassisted. It was actually this time it was Lucas Raymond who mishandled the puck. Same thing that happened to Lane Hutson happened to Lucas Raymond, but unfortunately for him, also in a bad spot of the ice, and then Jake just turns up the jets, and Seider tries to catch him but can't. And then Jake takes it from backhand to forehand, and he's able to put it right by Talbot. Joe Veleno deflects a shot from the point, and he ties it at 2 after 1. There's no scoring in the second. They get to the third. There's Lane Hutson giveaway to Rasmussen, who finds Mott, and then Hutson has to get the Mott, right, Pierre?
Yeah.
That's his guy right after, and he can't get there in time and can't get him. And 3-2 for the Red Wings. And how about this one? Armia Heineman, Xhekaj. Pierre Xhekaj, who's been extremely solid in the last 3-4 weeks. Look, Pierre, I have to tell you, I thought that Jaden Struble's ceiling was higher than Xhekaj's, and maybe it is, and maybe it will be. The way Xhekaj's been playing in the last month, I'm very impressed, Pierre. I'm very, very impressed. And I could tell you that an NHL executive told me a couple of months ago he didn't think Xhekaj was an NHL player.
Yeah, I don't know how many times a guy would have seen him. All you had to do is watch him play. There's certain characteristics that he has that make him an NHL player. 1 is his size. 2 is his determination. 3 is he's unpredictable. And that's scary for a lot of players that play against them. When you got a guy that's as unpredictable as he is, I mean, he can go squirrely in a second, and he can cause a lot of physical damage. Guys know that. So there's that intimidation factor, too, that makes him an NHL caliber player. But one of the things you touched on that I like is that he's improved in everything. Puck movement is better. Decision-making is better. Discipline is better, not taking nearly as many bad penalties, making sure he understands gap control, which is a lot better. So there's a lot of things he's doing that are better.
Being smarter and staying out of the box.
Well, discipline.
Discipline thing, you're right. He's saying, you know what? Sometimes he's saying, I got your number. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Instead of doing it right away. No, he's really playing well. I'm really impressed.
Actually, by the way, that was people are saying, well, Talbot's got to make that save. Yeah, maybe he does, but you know what? That thing got there in a hurry. Yeah, that thing was launched. It wasn't like it was a little powder puff.
Xhekaj. Look, I just talked about Jaden Struble, but Jaden Struble can't shoot the puck like Xhekaj. Xhekaj's got a good shot.
One of the things that I think has set Jaden back a little bit, to be fair, they played him a lot on the right side. And you could see there were games where he wasn't comfortable doing that as a left shot, and you got to turn and pivot the other side. It's a different thing, and I think that set him back. Honestly, Tony, I think it did. I think it set him back.
Pierre, there was a moment earlier this season. The game was in Pittsburgh.
The Saturday night game after they lost in Washington.
That is absolutely correct. And if I think it's Ryan Graves that fought him. Ryan Graves.
No, it was Ryan Graves.
Yeah, and Jaden didn't do all that well in the fight. I mean, he didn't get annihilated, but he didn't do well. And here's a guy that when he was at St. Sebastian's and everyone, when the Canadiens drafted him at the draft table, you could see Marc Bergevin, there's footage of it on Habs TV saying this guy's a Greek god, and everyone's talking about. And you saw actually highlights, images of him holding off like two players at the same time. Like he was just so much stronger than everyone when he was playing at that level. Unfortunately, though, in the leagues he played in, I mean, you don't fight. And I think that kind of hurt him a little bit, or maybe that's, I don't know if it's hurt him, but maybe that's a tool that Xhekaj has in his toolbox that maybe Jaden doesn't quite have right now, and maybe one day he'll be able to handle himself. But I remember, Pierre, Mike Komisarek was a very effective defenseman. And the first time he dropped his gloves was
Milan Lucic.
Correct. And he lost like that mojo that he had, like that toughness that some players thought he had. Well, then he got exposed on that night, very unfortunately for Mike.
Yes, sir.
Could that have happened with Struble?
It could have. I don't think in this case it will matter as much, but I know it hurt Mike. Mike's a real good friend of mine. You know, I used to live in the same town where Mike still lives. Used to see him a lot. I still see him a lot. He's working for Vancouver Canucks right now.
He's a great guy.
He's a tremendous guy. Does a lot of development. I see him in a lot of rinks. And that fight with Lucic, and I remember it clear as day, that definitely affected him. That definitely did. There's no question that affected him.
Mike and I, back in the day when he was playing with the Canadiens, we had a very, very, very good mutual friend, right? So, we were one day talking at the end of the game, and Mike was talking to my buddy, and I was talking to my buddy. Anyway, everyone was talking, and then Mike and my buddy had a word, and then when they finished talking, my buddy came over to me, and we left the Bell Center together, and he said, Lucic was talking up Mike during the game and stuff like that, but Mike's not going to waste his time with that and all that stuff. And I looked at my buddy and I said, tell him to stay away from that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's a killer. And
listen, I'm not going to tell you the players' names, but I've had guys that I've coached that are really tough guys and knew how to do it. And there were certain places we'd go and I'd say, not yet. I'll set the table for you. Don't worry if you're really that urgent to go, but I'll make it so you're ready to do it. And some guys listened and some guys didn't listen, but there are ways that coaches can set the table too. And again, that's just being in the rink a lot and learning and listening to veteran people that have actually done it before. And I think you're right about that, by the way. You know, that set him back. And in this case, though, with Struble, though, I think I've watched him enough. I don't think this will affect him as much. He's got to find his puck moving game. He's very underrated as a puck mover. He's got to find his gap control game, which I think has kind of gone away. And I think part of that's because he was playing on the right side. And he used to be a ferocious hitter. He's not afraid to hit people. He's got to get that back in his game. Those are three things he can work on to get better.
John Huey on YouTube Live, and we're on YouTube Live, we're on Facebook Live, and we are on Twitter Live tonight. John would love to see Evans, like you said, with Patrik Laine, but he'd also love to see Emil Heineman on that line. Pierre, Heineman works really, really hard, and he scored some big goals for the Canadiens.
Yep.
And so some believe that maybe he can score them if he's in his top six, and maybe he can. But at the same time, playing deeper down in the lineup, you get better matchups. Is Heineman ready for prime time? Should he be on a second line with Evans and Laine?
If anything, I'd give him a dress rehearsal tomorrow. It's a fair point. The reason why is you brought it up, Tony. The defense of Detroit's not overly stellar right now just because of injury and where they are with their development process. So I think if you were going to do it, this would be a good time to do it. That Columbus defense is underrated. It's way underrated. Zach Werenski is one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Nobody's even talking about this.
He's on fire this year.
He's one of the best players in the league, Tony. I said it before the season started. I said if he doesn't make Team USA, it's one of the grossest injustices ever. And obviously he made it for the Four Nation. But so if you're asking me, I'd prefer to see him, if you're going to do that, give him an opportunity in a back-to-back and a home and home, and let him try to do it tomorrow.
You obviously, I'm sure you did, but you must have read the story with Bill Guerin and Zach Werenski in the restaurant.
No, well, I'm aware of it. I didn't read the story. I'm aware of what happened, though.
Yeah. So for those who are watching right now, Columbus is playing Minnesota, I believe, and Bill Guerin and his assistant GM walk into a restaurant, and Zach Werenski's there with his wife. and they say hi to each other, and then they go to the back, and when it's time for the bill, Bill Guerin and his assistant are talking to each other, saying, you know what, should we tell him that he's going to be on Team USA playing in the Four Nations tourney? And this was probably a couple of weeks before the announcement was officially made. And they said, you know what, it would be cool to tell them because we won't have the opportunity to tell a lot of players live. So we have an opportunity to tell them here. So what they did was they went over and they said, hey, by the way, I'm kind of embarrassed to tell you this, but is there any chance that you can pay for my bill because I forgot my wallet at the hotel? And Zach Werenski's wife said, only if he's going to be on Team USA. And he said, well, then you could pay for my bill now because he's on Team USA. Pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I heard that actually from Billy. So, yeah, it's a good story.
Bill Guerin sounds like a pretty cool guy.
Oh, listen, Billy learned from the best, and it's a Montreal tie-in. Bill Dineen was his coach. Gary Dineen. Gary Dineen was his coach with the Springfield Olympics. He played at Loyola High School and Loyola College.
Wow. And
he played in the Olympics in the 1960s for Father David Bauer. He passed away from lung cancer, but he coached Scotty LaChance, Billy Guerin, Bobby Keller. Like, there's a whack of these guys that all came out of the Springfield, Massachusetts area, and it's a Montreal tie-in. It was Gary Dineen that coached all these guys. Billy's a tremendous guy. Had him in hockey camp for years when he was a little kid.
Awesome stuff. We're not going to take calls tonight, but we will take your questions. So if you want to ask Pierre, now is your chance. And Yellow and Sammy, they'll bring them up and we'll get to them. Pierre, tonight in game what was it? They played, there was 32? In game 32. The Canadiens did something for the very first time in a hockey game. It took 32 games.
30 shots?
That is absolutely correct, my friend. The Canadiens registered 33 shots tonight. It's the first time they registered more than 30 shots in a hockey game, and it took 32 games to do it.
Yeah.
That's you're not going to win a lot of hockey games if you're going to get less than 30 shots every night, Pierre.
No, because usually you score 1 every 10. So you got to. It's a race to 3 usually in the NHL. It's a race to 3. Whoever gets to 3 first usually wins, but it's usually a race to 3.
You brought up Scotty Bowman's name a couple of times, and you always do, and rightfully so. Bob in the YouTube chat says, Hab should hire Scotty as a consultant.
100%. I've said this for so many years, and you're gonna laugh at me. A lot of people are gonna laugh. He's 91 years old, and I've told him this. I talk to him probably 3-4 times a week. He could still coach. He can't go on the ice for practice. You put him on a bench, and you just say, you just coach the team in the games. I'm telling you right now, he could still coach and win, and he would dominate against a lot of these guys. He would.
That's unbelievable.
I'm just telling. Hey, Tony,
hey, listen, I believe you.
You ask him. Like in 1992, when I won the Cup, I ran the practices. He didn't run the practice. I did, but he coached the team. He was the coach. He was the boss. And I'm telling you, he intimidated other guys. It was beyond. Unless you're standing there next to him or sitting in front of him, you don't understand how powerful this guy was and still is as a hockey person. He's unbelievable. He
probably won some games before they even started, Pierre.
I'm going to say there were a couple that I stood next to him where I believe you're right.
That's something. Why don't we get to some questions here tonight? Actually, let's get to the game stats at the end of the game here. Final stats. Great. 33 shots for the Canadiens, 28 for the Red Wings. Face-offs were 50-50. Canadiens on the power play, they went 1 for 2. Only 2 minor penalties to the Detroit Red Wings in this game. The Canadiens had 4 minor penalties. Hits were 12 apiece. Canadiens blocked 9 shots. Detroit blocked 13, obviously, because they gave up more shots. Giveaways were 15 for Montreal, 14 for Detroit. Takeaways for Montreal and 2 for Detroit. Those are your game stats. And now it's time for your questions. And Yellow and Sammy and Master Control, if we can bring them up. Gaetan says, question for Pierre. Would you keep David Savard if you can't get a 2nd-round pick for him?
Depends if there's other things involved. Depends. It depends if there's prospects involved. It depends if there's 2 third-round picks. I mean, there's a lot. I can't just equate a number to it.
Yeah.
But if you were to just say to me, well, the only option that's available for him is a second-round pick, probably not.
Pierre LeBrun has reported that there have been no contract talks whatsoever between the Montreal Canadiens and David Savard. Pierre, it's December 20th. How much stock do you like? Is that, since there's been no talks up until now, would that lead you to believe that they're planning his exit before trade deadline? No,
not yet. No. Still early. It's still early. I think it's a wait and see for him, and it's a wait and see for them. I think they want to see, hey, where's Logan Mailloux? Where's David Reinbacher going to be? Like, there's some internal evaluation that has to go on here too.
Yeah.
So that's why I think there's no rush. You own the player till July 1st. I mean, I wouldn't worry about that. Or if you want to trade him, you trade him. But right now, you got some time.
So I want you to talk to me about Lane Hutson and some of the difficulties he had tonight, mishandling the puck, getting stripped of the puck, turning the puck over was more difficult in his own zone. We also have to say he bounced back really nicely on the pass on Patrik Laine's goal. Good for him, because once again, he's just awesome on the power play. We talked about Stefan Robida and, learning moments and teaching, and his, he was calm, and he probably said all the right things to Lane Hutson. Now that the game is over, right?
Yep.
Always in that, in the mood of teaching moments, and the coaches are watching the game. Is it try and paint the picture for us? Tell us, what's it like on a plane after a game? Like, would a coach call a player over and say, sit down over here for a second, I want to show you something? Or the game's over, the coaches watch the games, but they're not talking to the players about the game. They might do it tomorrow, they might do it in a couple of days, but they're not doing it on the plane. Or are they doing it on the plane?
Sometimes a player will come to the coach and say, hey, coach, can I sit with you? Can you show me that? I know I made a mistake. I'd love to see it. I've seen that many times. Wow. But more times than not, it depends on the mood of the plane. I would say in this case, it's probably a jovial mood. You don't want the players to feel like they're see one of their teammates getting punished. But as long as it's handled properly, I don't think it's a big deal. I wouldn't be surprised if they showed him something tonight. But if they didn't, the guarantee he's going to see it tomorrow. So it depends on what the mood of the plane's like. But I can tell you this. Have I done it? Yeah. Have I seen other people do it? 100% I've seen other people do it. Yeah.
Which player, if you could tell us, would come up and would want to watch highlights of what happened, like even right on the plane?
Tim Stutzle.
Wow.
Unbelievable. This kid is, and I know people in Montreal choose not to like him. Just I get it. I get it.
He's fantastic. He's fantastic.
Tony, I'm just telling you right now, he's a special guy. Yarmir Jagr wanted to see stuff all the time. Brian Trottier, and I'm just showing different age groups, but we were. I don't want to say we were the most advanced team in Pittsburgh, but with Scotty and Bob Johnson there, we were pretty advanced when it came to video stuff back in those days. Now everybody's got the same setups, but yeah, just players like that. I've never really seen too many players not want to learn. Yeah, some guys just think they're above it, but most guys want to learn.
Tim Stutzle in another category of all those players in that 2020 NHL draft. He's in another category.
He earned it. He works his tail off. I'm telling you right now. I think the world of the young man. Used to get to the rink real early. I'd go to the gym, and it wasn't too far behind that Stutzle would be coming in to work out before practice. He's a pretty special kid.
Question for Pierre. Would you play Pezzetta regularly if you were the head coach in Montreal? And if not regularly, when would you play him, Pierre?
I wish I'd see more practice. I know what he can provide.
Yes. He came in tremendous shape, Pierre.
He did. I saw him in the preseason. You're right about that.
He's worked on his shot quite a bit. Everything. He's vastly improved. Can I add something? I just want to add something.
Yeah.
So I know they won tonight, and I know that you don't want to change a winning lineup. Right. But 2 games in 2 nights, sometimes you do like to put in some fresh legs to give you some energy, right? Would you? Yeah. And I don't expect them to go in tomorrow. I don't remember.
No,
they're not going to.
But I would say, look, it's 3 and 4 nights when you're playing Columbus on Monday.
Yeah.
And it's been a heavy week. It's been a heavy week of hockey for them. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he gets in Columbus. I wouldn't. I'm not sure I'd mess with the lineup going into the game tomorrow, though.
And the fact that Jake Evans, you talked about putting him with Patrik Laine.
Yep.
The fact that his line had a really good game, would you be worried about playing with that and changing that up?
I saw enough.
Given the penalty kill.
No, I saw enough. I think everybody's kind of comfortable. It wouldn't be a problem. I don't think that'd be an issue.
More questions. Here we go. If we can bring them up. And Yellow and Sammy, do we have any other questions? Or else I'll get some myself here. There you go. David Olinger. Pierre, would you play Montembeault tomorrow and keep riding him as long as possible?
It's really important to establish something on home ice. So the answer is yes, I would, David. Thank you for the question. And I would not play him in Columbus probably on Monday, but I would play him at home.
Before taking the decision to play Montembeault in Detroit, which caught a lot of people by surprise because 2 games and 2 nights, the Canadiens traditionally go to their backup on the game on the road and then will play their starter on the game at home. Do you think the Canadiens goalie coach or Marty St. Louis, any member of the staff, would have had a word with Caden Primo already to kind of say, you're not going to go, but patience and
the goalie coach would have. I don't know if Marty would have. Marty's got other things. He's got worried about a lot of guys and a lot of things with the media. The one thing I'd say is, if I were involved with it, I would have pursued it like it was a playoff weekend, because these are like playoff games when you're playing back-to-back, home and home against a division rival, both guys trying to fight to get up the standings, get some traction. Present it to your team like it's a playoff game. You got 6 periods to win. Who's going to be the first to win 6 periods? And if you don't win 6, can you win 5 of 6? Can you win 4 of 6? So present it like it's a playoff situation. I think if they did that, and I'm sure they probably talked about something along those lines, you want to get your best lineup. And so if I were Montreal, I'd be playing. Sam Montembeault gives you the best chance to win.
Also, some questions. Are we concerned that Laine is only scoring on the power play? This coming in from Nathan Romke.
Nathan, that's what we were talking about before. That's why I kind of would like to see a little bit more thrust through the middle for him. And that's why I think Jake Evans, when we watched that tonight in the third period, when they put Jake on that line with Laine and Newhook, it started to establish some offensive zone presence, and you could see Laine made a difference. So I'd like to see a little more thrust through the middle for him. And so I think if you saw that, you'd see more 5-on-5 scoring.
James Yates. Pierre, huge fan of yours growing up, watching you on TSN, huge respect. Would you try and make a trade for a backup veteran goaltender, or would you stay the course with Primo and hope that he finds his game?
James, I really appreciate your kind words. One of the things that I would try to do is keep Primo here for now, try to work through it, because I kind of know, we all know what's coming in Jacob Fowler. And I'm not saying Fowler's going to be ready to jump in right away, but I would not want to waste position and dollars on the cap by bringing in somebody more established. They had a guy, if they really wanted to do it, they could have kept Jake Evans and moved Primo last year. I still think internally they think Primo has something left to give. I wouldn't be in a rush to move him right now, and I really wouldn't want to deviate from the roster right now at that position.
Question from Tony Prigioniero coming in, who says, what do you say to those who say that Kirby Dach should get a pass for his poor play due to his ACL and MCL injury and recovery? Great show as always.
Well, thank you, Tony, for that call or for the question. I would say this. I'm one of the people that say he needs time, and Tony Marinaro knows that. But I also know I watched today, and I watched earlier in the week, and I watched before that, and there's not enough second effort. And if a guy's going to really make progress, he's got to create more second and third efforts. And right now I'm not seeing that from him. So he maybe needs to reevaluate his game. I told Tony I think he needs a reset deeper in the lineup. I really do.
Other questions coming in. And by the way, Jakub Dobish is back for the Laval Rocket. Yeah. All right, he's back. Pierre, would you sign Tyler Johnson?
I would not. I would not have signed him if I were Boston either. And I said that on the air when Boston did it, and I'll say it again on your show for Montreal. Montreal doesn't need more small guys. And I don't know. I think Ty might have lost a half a gear. Not a full gear, but a half a gear. And when you're a smaller player and you lose a half a gear, that's not good.
Pierre, there's a question that came in before, and I'm going to try and find it again. I believe it's from Alex, who wants to know your opinion on Juraj Slafkovsky's hockey IQ.
If he's playing in confined areas, I think it's good. I think where he starts to lose it is in the open ice. He needs to play a power game. He needs to be down low from the hash mark to the icing line, from the icing line to the near side pole. He's got to play in that confined area around the net. When he's doing that, his hockey sense is good, because look at some of the passes he's made. Where he gets lost is he tries to get too cute and slick in the neutral zone when the game's going real fast. And that's where I think he gets discombobulated. I think they got to figure out his identity as a player. They're getting closer to it, though. I think they're getting closer to it.
Simon LeBlanc. Pierre, what are the main needs for the Canadiens going forward?
Second line center, I think, is really important for them, whether it's Kirby Dach or somebody else. I love the fact that Owen Beck is being developed properly by Pascal Vincent and his staff down in Laval. I think Owen Beck's going to be a real good player. And if you can slot him in the 3-hole, you're going to have a real good center ice position. You know, I don't expect Dvorak to be back next year, Tony. I don't know what your thoughts are.
No,
I don't expect him to be back. There's still.
I don't expect Armia to be back either.
Yeah, and there's still questions about whether they're going to re-sign Jake Evans or not. But I love the fact internally in-house they have him. Michael Hayes is a really good prospect at the University of Michigan. And don't forget, they still have more players that they could maybe try to acquire, but. I think center ice, especially the second position, is important. Whether they have it in-house or not, we'll see. They need right defense. I think they addressed some of that by getting Alex Carrier. I don't think they need the goaltending. I'm bullish on Jacob Fowler. Tony can tell you what I told him about Lane Hutson before anybody wanted, even say Lane could play in the league. So I think Montreal is actually starting to set up pretty well. I really do. I think they're setting up well.
Sean Icon says, if Kirby Dach can't be a second-line centerman this year, would you go out and try and get a second-line centerman rental? And Pierre, I'll add to that, because I think I know where he's going with this, knowing that it'll probably help you get more points in the standings, but it'll get you further away from the bottom where you could probably have a better pick. Would you go out and force the move to get a second-line center at one point this season, knowing that it can probably end up hurting your draft ranking if you don't?
Probably not.
Or if you do,
probably not.
Probably not.
I want to give Doc as many reps as possible to see if he can do it. That's part of what this season's about for him. You know what? I forget the gentleman who texted us before, but yeah, he had an ACL and an MCL. That's a hard thing. It's hard to come back from one of them. He had both of them. That takes time. I mean, I think it's really important to stress that. He's got to work through this, but he's got to give himself the best opportunity to work through it. And that's why I said second and third effort matters a lot.
Pierre, this has been a lot of fun. So let me ask you this. Tomorrow night, another big game for both these teams. If you're Detroit, what do you tell your team?
Well, we're going to go in there. We're going to play 5-on-5 as much as possible and force them to make turnovers and force them deep in their own zone. Also, if I were Detroit, I would attack the Canadiens' defense. I would cycle the net as much as possible. That's what I would try to do to try to break down their in-zone coverage. They still aren't elite at it. They're getting better, but they're not elite. And I would focus big time on certain players. Like Jake Evans wouldn't get a free pass tomorrow if I was coaching against Montreal. Suzuki wouldn't get a free pass if I was coaching against Montreal. And I would really do my best to play 5-on-5. If I took more, like Montreal is 1 for 2 tonight, and obviously Laine scored. If they take 3 penalties or more tomorrow night, I should say, Detroit's not going to win. But remember what I told you at the start. Special teams quotient. I said it before the game started. I'm going to say it again. Detroit's at 92.6 going into the game tonight. Montreal's at 103.1. That's a major – I'm not a numbers guy, but I'm telling you, tonight it played out. It played out big time. And I think that's part of why Montreal is probably going to win tomorrow night as well.
If you're Marty St. Louis, what do you tell your team knowing that if you beat Detroit tomorrow, you now pass them in the standings? And by the way, if the Islanders lose in Toronto tomorrow, even if the Islanders lose in Toronto tomorrow and you beat Detroit, you've now passed the Islanders as well. And, there's a lot of teams ahead of you, but what do you tell them with an opportunity to move ahead of Toronto, ahead of Detroit tomorrow?
Onward and upward. We said it's a 6-period weekend for us. We're going to win 5 of 6, or we're going to win 4 of 6. You know, that's how I would present it.
Yeah.
It's a playoff weekend, and I thought they played like a playoff game when they got the lead. I know there was a penalty, but the penalty kill was huge. You made the point, Tony.
Yeah.
So no, I think Montreal handled themselves really well on the road tonight against a very urgent Detroit Red Wing team.
Pierre, in ending, Buffalo lost again. Now I get it; they're playing Toronto, who's lights out this year, but just like, how far does this go before something happens?
Only one man knows that, and he flew to Montreal on a private plane. Why he did that, I have no idea. Because Mr. Pagula is a real honorable guy. He's a good person. I'm telling you, Tony. He does a lot. He's done so much in that community. I don't know what's gone on there, but I don't know how this is going to get any better anytime soon.
By the way, the Rangers really needed this one tonight in Dallas, and they got it, huh? By a score of 3-1. That's a huge win.
Huge win against a Dallas Stars team that's really started to percolate here. And then you look at them in the standings with Minnesota where they are, and you look at what's gone on in the West with Winnipeg. I mean, Dallas needed that win too, and they didn't get it tonight.
That's a huge win, Pierre, by the Montreal Canadiens tonight. They go back at it with Detroit again tomorrow, and then they're back at it versus the Columbus Blue Jackets on Monday night in Columbus. And the Sick Podcast will be back for that one. Same time, same place. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Pierre, talk to you again on Monday.
Talk to you on Monday, Tony. Take care. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
There you have it, Pierre McGuire. So in all transparency, I'm not so sure I'm going to be in on Monday. That's why one of the reasons why I was in tonight. Also taking over for my colleague Matt O'Hayan tonight. But my son is coming in this weekend, so we'll see what happens. And I haven't seen him for 123 days. So maybe I'll work, maybe I won't, but you know what? It'll be okay because Pierre McGuire will be there. And if I won't be in there, either Matt or Shane will be. And it's going to be all good. So we look forward to seeing you again on Monday night. Special thanks to all of you for being there tonight. Special thanks to all of you for watching. And once again, the Sick Podcast brought to you tonight in part by Energy Transportation Group, by Bittt Tibi, by Playground, by Betway, and the Maguire Report was brought to you by Restaurant Vago on Green Avenue, corner of the Maisonneuve. If you like the podcast tonight, leave us a 5-star review. It's our way of feeling the love. Once again, thank you very much for being there. Happy holidays, everyone. But we will be back Monday night. Same time, same place. Huge win by the Canadiens. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.